Man, all right. It is good to be with you guys tonight. I sound like deep and dark, and I could almost do like evil character voices because of this cold that I have. The other day, I'm going into Walmart with my wife, and actually it was Sam's Club because we don't believe in Walmart. But we start walking in, and she finally said, and I thought it was unusual. She was walking really quick, and my wife is like 5'2", so her legs are like 6 inches shorter than mine. And so every time I take a step, she has to take 2. And I thought she was going really quick. And I'm thinking, okay, slow down, but I'll keep up with you. And finally she looks at me, she goes, will you stop going so fast? And I'm like, I was keeping up with you. She goes, well, I was keeping up with you. And I'm like, well, who is setting the pace here? And I got a laugh out of it, but, you know, how many of you have ever gone anywhere with somebody slow? Like, guys, you're brave enough on a date to walk through any clothing store with a young lady, all right? And there's a different pace of walking when you go with somebody else. Their interests are different. And it's like, come on, I could go through this store. There's nothing I want. And I can be in and out in like 3 seconds. But I can go in with my wife, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I should check this out. I want to try that on. I'm not even going to buy it today, but I just want to see. And maybe this will go. And I'm like, okay. Now, when you've been married a long time, and I have been married a long time, okay, you get used to the other person's pace, and if you love them and you care about them, you don't mind slowing down for them. For example, when I take little Addie and IJ, my 2 little granddaughters, going anywhere, I don't mind walking at this pace, okay? Because it's the same thing. It's getting close to the same thing now when I take my mom anywhere. Got to walk at the same pace. Got to stop, make sure she gets an elbow, make sure she doesn't fall down a curb. She's 80-some years old, so I want to walk at her pace. There was a guy who was a famous theologian. That's a guy who studies God a lot, all right? He loved God. He was well known. And he asked a young man who thought he was something for Jesus. He said to him, how do you walk with Jesus? And he said, well, I get up every day, and first thing I do is I pray, and then I read my Bible for at least 30 minutes. Then I go through my prayer list. I've got that. There's these devotional books I read. And he started going on, and then I go to church these certain days. And he said, stop. He said, to walk with Jesus, you have to go at a walking pace. If you look at Jesus in the Bible, now I know there weren't cars and jet planes and things like that. And there's a few times Jesus decided to disappear from one place and reappear in another. And he could have done that every day of his life if he wanted to. But most of his life, Jesus walked everywhere he went. That takes a long time to go any place. He didn't walk because he couldn't get there faster. He walked because he wants us to walk with him. We're told to walk with Christ, all right? The only time I see Jesus represented in the scriptures as running is in the parable of the prodigal son. When the prodigal son finally makes up his mind and goes, I'm tired of sin and I want to come home to my father, well, the father runs to him. That represents God. If you want to turn your life around, give it over to Jesus. Jesus will run and he will meet you because he has been waiting for that. Patiently, but excited, please come to me, come to me. He won't kind of zap you and go, no, you must come. You know what I mean? He waits and he wants you to come to him. But man, the moment you turn and say, I want to be with Jesus, he's running right to meet you. But when it comes to life, how you live, there's a different pace. And sometimes, have you ever wondered, God, what are you doing? I could sure use you to move a little bit quicker here. God, you're really going slow. Are you even here? Are you moving? Do you hear my prayers? Because there's stuff that's going on and I need you. I want to take a look at a guy in the Bible who really needed Jesus. And this wasn't some prayer request night where everybody was like, my Aunt Sally's having bunion surgery next Thursday morning, and we need prayer for her, okay? Not saying that Aunt Sally's bunion surgery is not important, all right? because Jesus even cares about Aunt Sally's bunion surgery. But sometimes there are urgent things, like, could you pray that the poster I made that asked this girl to go to prom with me, like she'd buy it and say yes, because that's real important stuff, But we have different priorities when we come to Jesus. The guy who's coming to Jesus, I think, has the most urgent need that any man could bring. It's not a need for himself. It's when a parent has a child that's in need. I don't think there's a needier time. There's stuff I've wanted, there's times I've been in need, but man, if my kid is hurting, if my kid is sick, there's been a time where I almost lost my daughter to death, all right, in the hospital. Man, there is no more urgent time that you want to get a hold of Jesus. There's a guy in Mark chapter 5, and his name is Jairus, and he is one of the leaders in the synagogue. He would be like a pastor in your church or an elder, an official, and he's got a problem with his daughter. And he comes to Jesus in Mark chapter 5. When Jesus had again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, it says a large crowd had gathered around him. And one of the synagogue leaders named Jairus came, and when he saw him, he fell at his feet. He pleaded earnestly with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please come put your hands on her, so she will be healed and live." And so Jesus went with him. Hey, there it is. And he says, "My little daughter's dying. Can you come put your hands on her? She'll be healed and live." Jesus went with him. This is urgent. Jesus is teaching people. He's got things going on. He's got a message to get out, but he can deal with an interruption. What's the interruption? Somebody's not embarrassed to go, "Jesus, right now my daughter is dying." And I can't call 911. There's no hospitals in those days. Doctors don't do much of anything that could help you, okay? Could you come lay hands on her? You heal people. Jesus, could you come touch my daughter so she could live? And Jesus, it says, yeah, I'll go. Let's go. But what about this message? What about all the people here to hear you? Guy's got a daughter. I'm going. And so far, so good. It looks like just the right response. I remember when my daughter, Tabby, she sings in worship over at Refuge in Bellwood. I remember when she came back from a summer where she spent on a missions trip in Africa. And before she came home, 2 weeks before she was supposed to come home, I get a call in the middle of the night from Africa. That was the one thing I never wanted all summer, because I knew they would only call in an emergency. And they called, and we get the number, and it's, "Your daughter is sick. She's in the hospital. We think she has malaria." Okay, malaria is a disease you get from mosquitoes. It makes parasites in your body and your bloodstream, and your liver tries to filter them all out. And it's characterized by really high fevers and sweats, and it attacks your liver, and it can be really dangerous. But most of the time, a few dollars worth of pills can handle it. You have it for the rest of your life, but anytime it acts up, you just simple taking some quinine-based medications, and it's over. You get better. Except that's 3 out of 4 kinds of malaria. There's a 4th kind of malaria. And I remember when I got off the phone, I went right to the computer, and what do you do when you hear your daughter has a tropical disease? You Google it. What is this? And when I Googled malaria in Malawi that year, boom, first article pops up. New strain of malaria appears in Malawi and kills 2 UN workers a week ago. And I'm like, I won't tell my wife about that one. And that was the first one that popped up. Because there's a 4th kind of malaria, and it attacks your brain, and it kills children within 24 hours. And I didn't know it. My daughter has it. And the medicine that you take for regular malaria will not help her. And the symptoms are the same, and the only way to know is to be at a major hospital that can test to know the difference. And her hospital in that part of Africa was a cinder block 1-room hut. And the pills don't even come with writing, they come with pictures, because a lot of the people can't read. Jesus, I need you. I need you now. I need you to come through. My daughter's in a hospital in a foreign country. I have no money to go get her. If I could, it would take me 2 days to get there by plane. If I could leave right away. If I had a passport to even go. I don't know what to do, but I need you. I need you to stop whatever you're doing and help me. And you know what Jesus' answer is? When a father comes to him like that, let's go. I'm with you. I will stop what I'm doing and I'm going with you. But something happens on that way. All right? And I want to talk about our faith in Jesus tonight. If you have faith in Jesus, one of the first things you need to do to show that you have faith in Jesus is bring him your needs. What do you need? Now, the way you get your faith in Jesus, the first thing we usually need is forgiveness, right? All have sinned, come short of the glory of God. All of us have messed up. All of us need the forgiveness that Jesus offers, that he paid for on the cross. And then when we have that faith in him, then we bring our other needs. Not just Aunt Sally's bunion surgery, but we talk to God about what is the need of my heart. Do you know he cares if you're lonely? Do you know he cares if you don't have friends at school? He cares if you really like this girl and you want her to like you. He cares about your art projects. He cares about your video game score. Jesus actually cares about everything that goes on in your life. If it is important to you, he will listen to you as if you are the only child on this earth. Listen, my granddaughter can come up to me and she can babble on about trolls for the 5,000th time. I know who Poppy is. I know who Rainbow Troll is. Apparently there's a naked one with a glittery backside called Guy Diamond. I know him too. Why? I don't care anything about trolls. I absolutely love my granddaughter. All right? Yeah, and Branch. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Yeah, I've been watching this stuff. Why? I don't care anything about it. I mean, it's cute and all that. I love my granddaughter. It matters to her. If it matters to her, every store I go into now, hey, there's a troll swimsuit. I could get that. Hey, there's a trolls this, there's a trolls that. I am trolling trolls. It's crazy. And I want them. Why? Because that's what makes her happy. And I love her, and I want her life to know that she's loved by a father figure who cares about her. All right? God wants you to bring your needs to him. What is going on in your day? Most prayers are simple and safe. Dear Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you that we can all be here. Amen. Oh, and bless everybody and some missionaries I don't know somewhere. And that's most of our prayer life. And Jesus would be like, how was your day? Jesus, let me tell you about my day. Started off first period, this teacher, you know her, the one I can't stand, the one who's always giving me lip. Yeah, she checked my homework today, and she criticized the fact that I didn't do 70% of my problems. Can you believe that? Jesus would be like, yeah, I probably could, but go on. And in second period, that girl, the one I've been trying to get her number like forever, and she kept giving me like 6 different fake ones, all right? Finally, she like threw something at me in class. Whatever it is, I know I'm being trivial, but Jesus actually does care about what's going on in your life. And he'd like you to talk to him. It's not because he needs information. He knows everything, right? He knows everything. Before you open your mouth and speak the next words, he knows what you're going to say. But you know what? In all of that, knowing everything, he absolutely delights in you and says, tell me anyway. And you can't bore me. You can't bore me with your life. And it won't be too petty or too small. I want to know what matters to you. Share your heart with me. And I don't care if you've told me 100 times about it. I will listen again like it's the first time. And you will have all of my attention. If you want to show faith in Jesus, cultivate that relationship. Jesus, this is what's going on in my life. This is where I'm at. Because he wants to walk with you at a walking pace. Next slide. It says a large crowd followed Jesus. So Jesus is like, okay, we're going. Jesus is going with Jairus. That's it. It's Jesus and this one guy. He just leaves everybody else behind. But guess what? They all go along. Disciples are like, Jesus went that way. We better go, you know. And all the people are like, Jesus is going there. We're going too. But Jesus is only paying attention to Jairus. But as they're going, there's a woman. There's a woman, and she wants to see Jesus too. And she had been subject to bleeding, the Bible says 12 years. Okay, to put it kindly, she had her period for 12 years straight, nonstop. Okay, imagine what that does to your health. Imagine what that does to your social life. Imagine what that does to everything. And she tried every doctor thing and whatever that you can try. Nowadays, they can help young ladies if they have that problem. They put them on the pill, actually, and it stops that and it fixes it. But back then, for 12 years, nobody could help her. They all took her money, and I don't know what they did to try to help her, but nothing worked. She got worse. She got anemic. She got sick. There were certain Jewish laws she had to follow that were inconvenient, and she needs Jesus. And she'd suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors. She spent all that she had. Now she's broke. She spent every penny that she had. And instead of getting better, she got worse. She hears about Jesus. She wants him too. She comes up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. She thought, if I just touch his clothes, I'm going to get healed. She goes, Jesus touches people, they get well. I want to touch Jesus. I won't even ask him. Because you know, Jesus has this way of when you come up to him and you want something, he says, what do you want? And there's always a crowd. There's no privacy, right? So Jairus can come up and go, come with me, my daughter's dying. If you're a girl and you got this problem for 12 years and Jesus asks you in front of a few thousand people, you want to say anything? No. She's embarrassed. She's embarrassed to talk to Jesus. Do you know, can we just stop for just a minute? You don't have to be embarrassed to talk to Jesus about anything. Remember, he already knows, which means he already understands. And if he already knows, even if you're ashamed or you're embarrassed, he loves you enough to listen anyway. Tell me. Jesus, you can talk to Jesus about acne. You can talk to Jesus about anything. He will listen. We got this time in our lives, young people, when they call that puberty, when your body changes between 10 and 20, all right? Somewhere in there, it'll eventually get there, all right? Some sooner than others. But during that whole time, you may be embarrassed about some stuff. Jesus isn't embarrassed. Who do you think created this whole process? Talk to me. Well, Jesus, I wish I wasn't the only, hey, I was in 11th grade and I was 4'9" and 115 pounds. Talk about being late to eat or whatever it was, okay? But somewhere in there, I grew my senior year a foot, okay? And I added 50 more pounds. And there was a whole lot of bullies who stopped picking on me, all right? But you can talk to Jesus even about embarrassing things. She doesn't want to talk about it. She just goes, if I just touch him, I'll get well. Next slide. So she does. Immediately she touches him. It says her bleeding stopped. She felt in her body she was freed from her suffering, okay? At once, Jesus realized power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my clothes? And she said, you see the people crowding against you, the disciples asked, and you asked who touched you? Jesus, you're in a mob of people. There's always a mob. And you say, who touched you? Jesus goes, somebody touched me and got power, though. Why did they get power? Somebody touched me with faith. That faith that says, did she have some deep, massive theological faith? Was she some person who studied God's word for, 1 billion years until they were super wise? No, she just thought, if I could just touch Jesus, that he could do something. That's simple faith. She goes, I don't even have to tell him. I just want to touch him. I don't even want people to know. I just need to get better. I'm tired of all of this, Jesus. She touches him, and Jesus stops the crowd. Who touched me? And they're all like, Jesus, who touched you? Like 5,000 people have touched you in the past 2 minutes. He goes, no. Somebody touched me, and they got power. You see, Jesus notices in the thousands of people who pray, the ones who really believe they're going to get something. See, because I know when I was a youth pastor, I would ask somebody, okay, who wants to open youth group in prayer? They don't even do that here because they know how hemming and hawing that would be, all right? You either get people who go, I don't know what to say. You get the one kid who goes, dear Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you that we can all be here. Help Micah not to preach too long. Amen. All right, or something, okay? But it's a prayer that's not talking to anybody. You may say, dear Jesus, but you're not really speaking to him like he's there. It's some magical thing you think you're saying, or it's meaningless. All right? When we waste that time, Jesus said, don't pray like that. Pagans pray like that. They think somebody's going to hear them because they say a lot of words. Talk to me like it's a conversation. Jesus, I got a need. Let me tell you something. I had some conversations with Jesus. Jesus, I need my daughter to live till she gets home to America, or you're going to have to somehow get me there with what? I don't know how to help her. I need to get her home where she can be helped in a hospital where they know what this is, with some medication that knows how to do it. And do you know what? In Altoona, they don't treat too many cases of malaria, do they? No, every time somebody found out she had malaria, there's 20 nurses coming into the room going, can we see? Like you're going to see something, okay? It's not like she has polka-dotted spotted fever or something that's going to grow a lizard out of her head. It's a fever. Oh, well, we want to take some blood to look at it under a microscope. I think they took enough that she was going to bleed dry because everybody wanted to see it. And I'm like, no, you're not taking any more. I was afraid she was going to run out. They were taking so much. In fact, later on, she needed a couple blood transfusions to save her life. But this woman, she comes and touches Jesus. Jesus knows when you touch him with faith. Jesus knows when, a bunch of people go to sleep tonight. Somebody's going to be going, now I lay me down to sleep. Pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, that's one less test I have to take. And they know that, no, but I'm not praying to anybody like they're listening. And then there are those who tonight will put their head down on their pillow and go, Jesus, I need your help. I need Dad to stop drinking so much and coming home angry. He's scaring me and Mom. Or Dad, Jesus, could you do something for Mom and Dad's marriage? Because I think it's going to end, and I don't want two families. I don't want that mess. Or somebody's going to be praying, Jesus, there are kids at school. If they call me these names one more time, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stop cutting myself. I don't know if I'm going to be able to just walk into school at all, or if I'm just going to want to just end it. Jesus hears you when you talk, and you are talking for real. And he's not offended. You don't have to pray a certain way. You don't have to add all the theeth, thouetheth, and the theetheth. When you talk to Jesus, he would rather you just speak to him like you're talking to a real father, the father that he's always been and that you've always needed. Talk to me. And if you don't know how, listen, I never knew how to talk to my dad, so learning to talk to God was hard. I learned how to pray church-wise. I'm really good at praying church language. I could add all the theth and thoueth and the theetheth, all right, on a good day. That's why all the preachers have to drink water when they talk, all right? But getting to know him as a father, me and my dad didn't talk for 10 minutes. I don't know how to talk to Jesus for 5. Not really. Not from my heart. Not about what's going on. Next slide. So Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. And then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, she came and fell at his feet, and she's trembling with fear. She's afraid because Jesus is not moving. The whole crowd is standing there, and Jesus is like, who touched me? And she's like, I didn't want anybody to know. But finally she comes, and she's afraid because she is cured. Oh, crap, that's God. I mean, like she's blown. Her mind is blown. Her body's healed. 12 years of constant suffering is over, and she comes to Jesus, and I love this. Jesus doesn't even ask her. Tell me, what did you do? Tell me, what did you need? Tell me how bad it's been. Jesus doesn't say any of that. Do you know what? She comes to him and he goes, I touched you. And here's why. Because all that stuff we found out about her before, the only reason we know that is because she then said to Jesus, I've been bleeding for 12 years. I spent everything I ever had on doctors, and nobody's helped me. I've only gotten worse. I thought if I just touched you, you would help me, and I didn't want anybody to know. And she's thinking Jesus is going to be mad. You stole a healing or something, or how dare you not make an appointment and come at the right time? See me in my holy Jesus office or something like that. No. Look at Jesus. I love his word. What does he call her? Daughter. My daughter. Your faith has healed you. Go, peace. Go in peace. All that suffering, all that worry, the stress, everything, go in peace. In her world, in their religion, nobody would ever choose her to be a wife. She thought, I'm going to be single forever, all right? Not just through 9th grade like some people are worried about, all right? She's thinking about forever. Nobody's going to marry me. And he's like, go in peace. You're free. You're free from your suffering. That's great. Wait, time out. It's a great story, but that's not the story. Because who is standing there this whole time that this whole trip was supposed to be about? Jairus is there, and lady, it's great. You've been suffering for 12 years. You could have waited for 12 more weeks. My daughter's dying now. She is dying. I need Jesus to stop helping people and help me. Have you ever felt that urgent about Jesus? Jesus, I don't know what you're doing. I need you to stop everything else. I need your help. And I've been there in prayer meetings where I've heard people share. I've been in church or a youth group where somebody says, oh, Jesus did this for me this week. And they go, anybody got any prayer and praises? And people are like, oh, yeah, I got the new job. Oh, yeah, I got the new car. Oh, yeah, my mom and dad got back together. And I'm sitting there going, I got a real need. I wish Jesus would get it together for me. When is it going to happen? And if you've never felt that way, I don't know if you're real. Because that's just human. Have you ever heard other people getting stuff done and you're going, yeah, well, Jesus doesn't visit houses like mine. Jesus doesn't help families like mine. Jesus doesn't come through for kids like me who've been where I've been, done what I've done, live in the kind of house I live in. Jesus doesn't come to my neighborhood. Kurt Cobain in Nirvana wrote the song, Jesus don't want me for a sunbeam. He doesn't want people like me. And he took his own life later on. Jesus says, go in peace, be freed from your suffering. Next slide. Faith in Jesus is hard when Jesus seems to be helping somebody else. Jesus, your priorities are messed up because you're helping them, they could wait, and you're not helping me, and mine is urgent. Jesus, great. They got into the college they wanted. I'm so happy they prayed about that. But the truth of the matter is, I need to pass this test today, or I can't even graduate high school. And we might question, Jesus, what are you doing? They're praying about this. I don't even know if I'm going to have money to get paid tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to have a job. I don't know if my daughter's going to live. Let me tell you something. When I was faced with the fact that my daughter may not live, nothing else mattered. My job didn't matter. My family didn't matter. Church didn't matter. And you know what? As far as everybody else was concerned, Jesus, would you please forget them and help me? Because right now, that's what I need. And I don't understand why you're not helping now. Because for 16 days, nobody helped my daughter. For 16 days, even in the hospital, she got worse. For 16 days, they didn't find out that what I already knew in my head, that website popped up, this thing popped up, and I'm like, Jesus, you're telling me, and I felt him whisper that night. I didn't want to tell my wife about that outbreak of that kind of malaria in that country because I knew it was bad news. And I've heard Jesus say to me, as clear in my head as I've ever heard him speak, you need to know this because they won't know and you will have to fight for your daughter. Jesus, I don't want to tell my wife that we could lose her kid. I don't want to tell them. And who am I? I'm no medical doctor. I go into the hospital and go, yeah, by the way, I think my daughter has falciparum malaria. Look it up because you've never heard of it. How do you know? Well, I looked it up on Google and then God kind of told me that was it. Who's going to buy that? Yeah, we have a room for you, Mr. Taylor. It's white, it's padded, it's down the hall. Come on. Medics, get some tranquilizers, please. Mr. Taylor, come with us. You're going to be okay. We'll take you to a happy place. All right? And yet I knew it, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I'm like, Jesus, you're not coming through. And then we thought she was better. We tried to throw her a party for her sweet 16. It was not a good night. And we had to get her into the hospital, and things started to shut down. Liver starting to shut down, kidneys starting to shut down. Her blood was getting, they called it thick. So many parasites in her that her blood is thick and her liver can't filter that out anymore. So they started getting blood transfusions. We got to get her some fresh blood, and then the parasites will fill that up. And it's then, what do you do? What do you do? They're buying time. And finally, I'm desperate as a dad. I'm going, where do they treat malaria? I'm like, the military treats malaria. I told Altoona Hospital, get her help today, or I'm going to take her over to the Veterans Hospital and beg them to help her. And then they started to move a little bit. And they found out that, our soldiers in Afghanistan and some of the other countries, they take a certain medication called Malarone that stops that, prevents you from getting it, and can cure it very quickly if you can get it. And that was on a Friday. They said, well, we found some. It's in Huntington, but their pharmacy is going to close for the weekend soon. We'll get it to her. And I'm like, I will get on my motorcycle right now, tell them I'm coming and have it ready, and I will get it back here as quick as I can. And I think they believed me, because finally they come back. Mr. Taylor, we found a delivery person. They're going to get it here. Relax, chill down. I was not relaxed and chilled. I was ready to fight somebody because I thought my daughter will be dead by Monday. My daughter will be dead by Monday. You aren't helping. And sometimes when we bring our needs to God, sometimes we feel like you aren't helping. I feel like I need to take over this situation. I have a better idea of how this story should end. I have a better idea of how this story should work out. And what we're really saying is, God, I don't trust that your heart is good. I know that you're powerful. I know you can do anything. But I don't trust that you got this figured out for my good. Trust in Jesus. Got to trust God's priorities. You may see some other people getting moved to the head of the line and helped by Jesus, and you might wonder why it's not you. Trust him. Trust Jesus. He's trustworthy. Trust his timing. Jesus gets there at the last minute a lot. And sometimes, even when it seems it's too late to do any good, he shows up. Trust him, even when you feel time is running out. Next slide. Jairus is there, and he's waiting. And while Jesus is still speaking, some of the people from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader, they come to him and they tell him, your daughter's dead. She's dead. Don't bother Jesus anymore. You imagine the rage and the pain. You stopped to help this woman? She's had problems 12 years. She wasn't going to die today. She wasn't going to die today, but my daughter did. Where were you? Why did you stop? Why didn't you come with me? I know everybody has needs, but I have a need. It mattered. My daughter's dead. They tell him, don't bother Jesus anymore because it's too late. You imagine that father's heart? I can imagine that pain. I know it too well. There's been 4 times in my life that I've helped get down in a small hole in the ground and put a small person's body in the ground and help their parents. My best friend Dan, we buried his son. I remember the other person's name. I don't want to share it right now. And I remember a teenager who committed suicide because his girlfriend said that she was never going to let him see their son again. And it seems like it's too late. And this guy's daughter, she's gone. I came to get a healing, and now I wasn't even there to hold her hand and have her say goodbye to Daddy, to get a kiss goodbye. I couldn't even be there with her. I came here to get Jesus, and he stopped. He stopped. And listen, there's going to be a time in your life, if it hasn't already happened, where you bring something to Jesus and you need him to come through, and it seems like he just stopped, and you're going, what could possibly stop you? I need you. Listen, you have to trust his heart. If he would lay down on a cross, having never done anything wrong, and let people nail him there, and be able to say, Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. That is the heart of Jesus. You can trust him even when there's no explanation that makes sense. You can trust his heart because his heart towards you is good. Even when he was born, the angels sang in heaven, peace on earth, what? Good will towards men. God's heart towards all of mankind is good. That's what his heart is. Jesus overheard them. They're all taking him over, and I imagine Jairus is broke down, and Jesus comes and puts his arm around him and says, don't be afraid. Just believe. And that's what I would tell you Jesus says to you when you're at that point where Jesus, I need you. You don't seem to be moving. I need change, and it doesn't seem to be happening. And this wait seems really, really, really long. Jesus just picture him putting his arm around you and going, I'm not doing this to torture you. I am not doing this to frighten you. I love you. Would you just trust me? Would you please don't be afraid? I didn't let this come through your life to terrify you. I love you. Don't be afraid. I'm here. I'm here. Some things may not be clear for a very, very long time, but I'm here. Don't be afraid. Next slide. Jesus didn't let anybody follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw a commotion with people crying and wailing loudly. Well, the first thing Jesus does is, we don't need this mob. This dad just lost his little girl. Peter, James, John, you're going to need to see what I do. But the rest of you, just go home. Crowd, go home. Lady, God bless you. Go in peace. You got your healing. This guy lost a daughter. I'm good. And Jesus comes along and he goes in and he goes, why all this commotion and wailing? The child's not dead. She's asleep. They all laugh at him. He's going, she's just sleeping. They all start laughing and mocking Jesus. So Jesus sends them home too. Next slide. He put them all out. That's it. Do you know what you need to do? Especially when you're afraid, and especially when your prayer seems unanswered, is you need to get rid of all the people that laugh about prayer and laugh about Jesus and laugh about faith and don't believe him or say it's too late, or they come along and go, dude, it's all right, man. My family's messed up too, whatever. No. You get rid of those people and you get surrounded by the people who still trust Jesus. Because your heart needs all that support. And he put them all out, and he took the child's father, the mother, and the disciples who were with him. He went into where, there's a Mrs. Jairus. There's a mom who was there when her daughter died and her husband wasn't there to help her. And she probably got some words for Jesus. She probably has a few more for her husband. But she closes her mouth. Because at this point, what are those words going to do? Let's go in. And she goes in with Jesus, and Jairus, and the disciples. And he takes her by the hand and he says to her, Talitha Kumi, which means, little girl, I tell you, get up. You see, even a thing like death, the only thing Jesus needs to do is say, time to wake up. She breathes. She's not blue anymore. She starts to get warm. Her heart beats again. She sits up. And Jesus says, get her something to eat. Oh, and don't tell anybody about this. Jesus didn't do this for a show. He did this so that you would know he loves you, Jairus. He did this so you know he loves your daughter, he loves your wife. All those people out there who laugh because you had a need, forget them. This is for you. Don't even bother telling them. Oh, they'll see her walking one day. And they're going to be like, whoa, wait, you were dead. Yeah, let's just let their minds be blown, because this isn't about me getting attention from me. This is about Jesus saying, I am coming through for your heart because I love you. How do we wrap all that up? If we go to the next slide. Can we do a little checkup on your faith tonight? Are you bringing your junk to Jesus, your needs? For real? Not the, Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you that we can be here. God bless all the missionaries and Aunt Sally's bunion surgery next Wednesday at 2. Or do you really bring your needs to Jesus? Right now, everybody look at me just for a second. What is the greatest need in your life at this moment? The thing that is on your mind, that is on your heart. Don't think, oh, that's too stupid. It needs to be something serious. No. Because remember, Jesus doesn't think it's stupid. He absolutely adores you and wants to hear it. Have you brought it to him? Have you brought it to him? The Bible doesn't say cast some of your cares on him because he cares for you. The Bible says cast all your cares on him because he cares for you. Are you struggling? Number 2, do you got a problem with Jesus' priorities? He seems to be helping other people, and you feel like you're waiting too long? How many have ever felt like that? Anybody? Honest? I felt like I'm waiting too long. By the way, my daughter didn't die. That's why I have those 2 little grandkids that watch Trolls with Poppy now. It's funny. I'm Poppy, and there's a troll named Poppy. Anyway, God spared her life. She did have that kind of malaria. The Center for Disease Control found out a week after we had already gotten her the meds that would help. God came through. She should have never lived 3 weeks with that. She should be dead, but she's not. I had problem with priorities. I've had lots of problems with God's timing. God, when are you coming through? You guys have been to camp, know how many times I say, Jesus, we're leaving tomorrow. I don't even know if I can pay the bill or feed these kids. He comes through. He's come through for 100,000 meals. That's just the ones I've had to do the dishes for. He'll come through again. Here's a question. I'll be bold. How many would say right now in your life, what you're going through, something that you're being tested? Anybody? Who would say? Raise your hand. I'm being tested. I'm down. When you're tested is when you need to know what God's heart is, because Satan lies. He says, your problem's not that important to God. God listens to church people. He don't listen to people like you. Sometimes he lies and says God only listens to upper middle class white church people who raise their hands real high in church and know all the words and their Bible's bigger than mine. If you couldn't read the Bible, if you didn't know a single song, he absolutely loves and adores you. And he says, come to me, all that are weary and heavy laden. I'll give you rest. My yoke, my burden is easy and light. You'll find some rest for your soul. Come to me. So if you're being tested, even in the middle of a test, it doesn't have to be over yet, but you can have rest in your soul. Jesus offers that tonight. He offers that. So you bring him your need. You trust his priorities. He's going to get to you. But Jesus, remember, he walks. Oh, that's frustrating sometimes. I want him to run. But he walks. I will get there. I'm on my way. You don't know how many people I'm helping on the way, and I love all of them too, and I know you, and I am getting there. And I will come through. It may not be what you think. It may not be in the way that you want it. But when it is done, you will know that I am your Father, and I love you, and I've walked you through this. And I have never left you, and I never took my eyes off you. Don't be afraid. Let me come through you in this test. Let's pray. Jesus, I'll admit sometimes you're hard to understand until I read stories like this where I can see the ending. It's so easy when we know the ending to trust you. It is hard in the middle of the story. So Jesus, for these young people tonight who raised their hands and said, I'm in the middle of a story, I'm being tested. I'm being tested and I don't know how it's going to end. Jesus, I just ask that right now they would feel your arms around them, saying, don't be afraid, just believe. Just find a little more faith. I'm with you. I will come through with you. You will pass this test. I will be there for you no matter what happens in life. Because I love you as if you were the only son and daughter on this planet. Jesus offers you his whole heart. And he doesn't hold anything back. Would you offer that to him in return tonight? Jesus, by the way, if you're being tested right now, here's a good prayer. You can pray it with me. You can pray it out loud. You can pray it in your heart. God will hear you. Jesus, I'm being tested. Tell him what the test is. Jesus, I'm being tested. I'm having trouble figuring it all out. I'm having trouble holding on to hope. Would you help me not be afraid? Would you help me believe? And would you walk through it together with me? Yes. Can I tell you that's his answer? Yes. I will walk through it with you. I will help